felony conviction. Verurteilung wegen eines Verbrechens. Verurteilung wegen eines Verbrechens. Felony conviction. It's the little things that make me happy. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Saturday Evenings Posted Mostly presents Broken News with me, your host, Trevor Stewart 1308. And we are pre-recording live in front of a Twitch Studio home audience, or live if you're at home on Twitch. And I would like to take a moment to remind you that this is not a news show, and this is not a news show. I am not a journalist, and all of the views expressed herein are 100% right, correct, and verifiable as opinions. Welcome to this episode brought to you by Cannabis, and today's pre-roll is brought to you by The Hidden Leaf. Downtown Charlottesville, where the only thing better than the weed is the customer service. Thank you very much for the free gifts. These pre-rolls here are $5 a piece or 3 for $10. In my opinion, the best deal going. Smooth. And this evening I would like to begin with a story from the AP News. Guilty. Trump becomes first former U.S. president convicted of felony crimes. To quote the article, Donald Trump has been convicted in his New York hush money trial, a landmark jury verdict making him the first former American president to be found guilty of felony crimes in the nation's nearly 250-year history, unquote. We know the orange peels are coming. The question is, how slimy whiny will the orange peels get? And I do feel like saying too much more about this would be giving him any validity, and that is too much validity for someone the same shade as an extruded corn cheese-flavored snack. Next up from MSN.com, highly poisonous plant spreading throughout U.S. How to recognize and get rid of it. Unfortunately, this article is about poison hemlock and is not about supporters of a certain political felon. Originally brought over from Europe, poison hemlock resembles wild carrot and is highly poisonous if ingested. Currently, the poison plant can be found in every state in the country, with the exception of Alaska, Florida, Hawaii, and Mississippi, according to the United States Department of Agriculture. Alaska, Florida, Hawaii, and Mississippi. That sounds like the odd couple of state pairings. I mean, yeah, Florida and Mississippi make sense together, and Hawaii and Alaska make sense together, but Alaska and Florida and Hawaii and Mississippi, that does feel like the odd couple there. Next up from the AP News. West Virginia candidate hospitalized after being bitten by snakes while removing campaign signs. Yep, that happened. Good news is that he was taking down his own signs, and he did survive. The bad news is that he came in second in his race for West Virginia Secretary of State, and the snakes are disappointed that they didn't get to bite the actual West Virginia Secretary of State. Next up from NBC News. America's child care shortage is pushing military families to a breaking point. In the last 4 years, an estimated... Cat says sorry, mostly. Oh, that reminds me of a couple of things that I forgot to do at the top of the show. Number one is to thank Cat expressly as our staff writer. Thank you for this script, and thank you for all of your hard work as associate producer and staff writer. Also, happy Pride Month, everybody. I'd be wearing rainbow underwear, except this time of year I stop wearing underwear. Next up, from NBC News. America's child care shortage is pushing military families to a breaking point. In the last 4 years, an estimated 100,000 individuals have left the early childhood education / child care field entirely, and some 16,000 facilities have closed. The resulting limited options and higher rates are particularly affecting military families as they struggle to find a solution in a world becoming more and more devoid of options. To quote the article, Aaron Williams has jumped out of airplanes, led a platoon in Afghanistan, and earned an Ivy League degree with 3 young children at home. But the hardest thing to navigate in her military career is finding childcare. Childcare is the only thing that has made me consider leaving military service, said Williams. Williams, an Army officer who is currently serving at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. I've worked for awesome leaders, and I think I've done a good job leading. But the logistics and constant stress that come from childcare is truly the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, unquote. In chat, Kat says, Pride Month heart, Pride Month heart, Pride Month heart, Pride Month heart. This is for the Happy Pride Month comment and not the no underpants comment in case Lockpick shows up. Lockpick, Lockpick, Lockpick. Is he here yet? I'm liking camera 2. Next up from ZME Science on MSN.com. Thank goodness there's no ABC or NBC or CBS involved. That would be a real alphabet soup. 1,000-year-old intact human brains baffle scientists, and there are thousands of them. To quote the article, in a new study, researchers at the University of Oxford have cataloged over 4,400 naturally preserved human brains, some as old as 12,000 years. This archaeological archive includes the brains of Inca sacrificial victims, prehistoric people, and even North Pole explorers. Since the mid-17th century, more than 4,400 human brains have been unearthed from the last 12,000 years of the archaeological record, over 1,300 of which are preserved among otherwise skeletonized remains, the researchers wrote in their study. The exact reasons why these brains remained preserved while other soft tissues deteriorates remains a mystery, but it might have to do with the brain's unique chemical composition. The brain has a 1-to-1 ratio of proteins to lipids, which is distinct from other soft tissues that contain more carbohydrates and have different protein to lipid ratios. This specific ratio could be crucial, especially when metals like iron are introduced, potentially causing proteins and lipids to bind together and last even longer. Many such preserved brains were found to contain iron oxide, also known as rust. Unquote. Rusty brains in the drain. Yep, zombies will be wandering around munching on rusty brains. And I thought that the hippies of my youth didn't know how to cook. Someone missed the camera transition. That someone would be me. Next up from NPR. Whites-only job posting complaint is settled with tech staffing firm, DOJ says. To quote the article, a job posting that included race and citizenship requirements and the stipulation, "Don't share with candidates." I'm sorry, let's revisit that. "Don't share with candidates" has resulted in settlement agreements between Virginia-based IT staffing firm Arthur Grant Technologies Incorporated and the U.S. government. Basically, the company has been fined and is now being monitored to make sure they behave. The article is well written, and you should definitely visit the NPR website and read the entire thing. Associate producers note, and come back tomorrow to see if I can finally beat our wonderful host at the Limerick Challenge. You know, I'm just saying, being an almost constant listener to Wait, Don't Tell Me for the past decade and a half, and having gone through almost their entire old catalog, it does give me a rather unfair advantage. You know, it really does. R&R, it's a Dassin cup. Branded content. And now back to an old favorite here. Escaped animals or Ark on the Lam. First up from the AP, the real stars of the cans may be the dogs. To quote the article, it's been a dog's life this year at the Cannes Film Festival. Or should that be the Canine Film Festival? We wouldn't stoop to that. Yeah, we would. No, we wouldn't. Yeah, we would. No, we would never. We've done worse. Since the 77th edition's opening day, human actors have shared the limelight with their canine co-stars on and off the red carpet, kept secure by the perky sniffers dogs that dart around the press ladder and tripods ahead of every premiere. With four-legged guests ranging from last year's unofficial Palm Dog winner, Messi, to Felicity, the no-to-dog meat ambassador rescued from the meat trade, to Cody, canine star of the Swiss comedy Dog on Trial. I guess it was about a dog on trial. And I thought Americans were bad at naming things. Next up, from the AP News, 3 little piggies at a yoga class equals maximum happiness. We have seen yoga with puppies, goats, chickens, horses, cats, bunnies, and hot rocks. And now a class in Spencer, Massachusetts has included piglets. One piglet yoga participant, Stacy Delbridge, is quoted, "The best thing about the piglet yoga was, of course, the piglets, and how cute they are. They were funny, you know. Just when you were getting to a point where you needed a break, you had a great visitor come see you, and you could quit without looking like a quitter. Yeah, they're adorable." The associate producer is keeping her thoughts about yoga with breakfast mostly to herself. I mean, I personally have been guilty of calling piglets bacon seeds. Next up from UPI.com. Escaped monkey captured after days on the loose in South Carolina. To quote the article, a misbehaving monkey that escaped from his South Carolina home has been safely captured after spending the weekend on the loose. Badly, the 15-year-old Japanese macaque escaped late last week, and initial attempts to lure him have failed due to members of the public trying to get a look at him. He was eventually safely collected and returned home. There is no word how he escaped, if the Global Animal Freedom Front was involved, or what their interest in South Carolina is at this time. I kind of wanted to see how badly a Japanese macaque could escape. I personally, I'm a little proud of that joke, but professionally, not at all. Next up from UPI.com. Alligator escapes from the petting zoo at Missouri Middle School. From the article, authorities in Missouri are searching for a small alligator that escaped from a petting zoo exhibit set up at a Kansas City middle school. The Kansas City Pet Project said the 14-inch alligator was last seen about 11 a.m., unlocking new nightmares for me. Thursday at Lakeview Middle School, where a third-party company had been hired to set up a petting zoo to celebrate the end of the school year. The article notes that the school did not obtain proper permits for this type of animal event and will be fined for this lapse. I hope so. Currently, the reptile is still missing, and local authorities are requesting that anyone with information to please call. How close is this school to that place in Texas where the St. Louis Bear is now? How close is the school to the St. Louis's Bears original location? We have 2.5 minutes before an ad. Let's see if I can get through this next one in that time. Next up, from ScienceDaily.com, wild orangutan treats wound with pain-relieving plant. To quote the article, even though there is evidence of certain self-medication behaviors in animals, so far it has never been known that animals treat their wound with healing plants. Now, biologists from the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior, Germany, and the Universitas Nasional, Indonesia, have observed this in a male Sumatran orangutan who sustained a facial wound. He ate and repeatedly applied sap from a climbing plant with anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving properties, commonly used in traditional medicine. He also covered the entire wound with the green plant mesh. Thus, medical wound treatment may have arisen in a common ancestor shared by humans and orangutans. Well, this answers one question posed by the Planet of the Apes string of movies, I suppose. I do think that it is a bit of a leap for the article to go from the medical wound treatment from a Sumatran orangutan to shared ancestral usage of wound treatment. I don't know if there's anything backing it up. That feels like a source, trust me, bro. But that's just what I see when I see it. We have 20 seconds or so before an ad break starts. So let me take this moment to waste a few seconds. Sponsored content. And we're in the ad break. How are we sounding, Kat? Sound good so far? Thank you. Everything seems to be... Oops, that's the wrong button. Oh, right. I've got 1.5 minutes till ad break ends. Okay. Ah, I see the problem. There is something occluding that. Oh, look. Somebody who's asking to get banned. Thank you, moderator. Let's show some love to the mods. Huh? Let's give some mod love right now. Thank you, moderators, for doing your jobs. We appreciate it. Much better. That works. And I believe we are back from commercial break. Thank you for sticking with us through commercial break. And if you want to see what we get up to, check out the videos over on YouTube. Next up from ScienceAlert.com, something strange happens to Trevor when Death Kitty startles him. Ooh, that was way more going on there than I thought was going to happen. Okay. Something strange happens to wolves infected by an infamous mind-altering parasite. After a couple of decades observing and researching the effects of this parasite, one major finding is that beings that are infected tend to engage in increasingly risky behaviors. Ultimately, these behaviors result in the intermediate host crossing paths with the ideal host for the parasite. Yes. If you have a cat, you've probably heard of, to quote the article, if you have a cat, you've probably heard of this parasite before. The microscopic organism can only sexually reproduce in the bodies of felines, but it can infect and thrive in pretty much all warm-blooded animals. This includes humans, where it can cause a typical, symptomless, but still potentially fatal parasitic disease called toxoplasmosis. This study demonstrates how community-level interactions can affect individuals' behavior and could potentially scale up to group-level decision-making, population biology, and community ecology, unquote, the researchers write. A parasite that causes the infected to engage in behaviors that are risky, sometimes functioning as a group that masses together and attempts to use mob tactics and decision-making skills with the ultimate goal of gaining entry to the ideal host. Sounds almost political. And now on to some more human news. First up, from MSN.com, McDonald's ice cream machines are always broken, and now the feds are involved. Finally! We all saw that MatPat video where they proved that it was a marketing ploy to cause or it was a marketing ploy to artificially inflate demand. Next up, doubleblindmag.com, psychedelic church files defamation lawsuit. You don't want to know what my dyslexic brain read right there. Nutshell version, though, Texas Church offers sacrament for purchase, but doesn't have documentation proving it has the molecules the literature boasts about. Journalists send some for testing, find magic fungi, write articles, and now the church is suing just about everyone within sight. Huh. Next up, from the AP News, up in smoke, workers remove dozens of apparent marijuana plants from Wisconsin Capitol Tulip Garden. This bodes ill for today's tongue twister. From the article, Tatiana Warwick, a spokesperson for the State Department of Administration, told the Associated Press in an email Friday that workers had removed the plants, but their agency couldn't determine if they were marijuana or hemp. Both are forms of cannabis, but only marijuana has the compound that gets people high. As if we aren't all already aware of that. There has been no comment on how the plants got there in the first place, only that the number of plants was far too large to have been accidental. Right. And moving on to something from UPI.com. Fortune cookie numbers earn VA woman $50,000 Powerball prize. The woman told VA lottery officials that she always used the numbers found inside her fortune cookies and that she almost didn't get her ticket as she had left it on the counter after purchase and had to come back for it. Fancy fabrication of fate furnishes Fancy fabrication of fate furnishes fair fortune on favored factorum. Hi, Wasabi. Yes, tongue twister time. And I failed on the first two. And for fun's sake, fancy fabrication of fate furnishes fair fortune on favored factotum who fixedly and fervently fielded figures found on furtive forecast filler. I am not trying that again. Thank you, Wasabi. Also from ScienceAlert.com, Maine's Marines battle-tested a mysterious suit of armor from 3,500 years ago. To quote the article, thought to be one of the oldest complete armored suits of European Bronze Age, the Dendera Panoply, as it has come to be known, has puzzled archaeologists in the 60-odd years since it was found. Wholly intact, it looked solid, but early experiments with replicas suggested it wasn't suited for use in long battles. So, was the suit purely ceremonial or only for those who rode to battle in chariots? Archaeologists wondered. Not so, according to a new study from researchers who had a group of 13 Marines from the Hellenic Armed Forces test the suit in an 11-hour-long simulation of battle conditions recreated from historical texts. They found the Dendra suit would have been entirely compatible with use in combat and the demands of war. After analyzing what records of the period battles still exist, figuring out what weather conditions, temperatures would have been fought in, and the general terrain, the 11-hour simulation was staged. And here in the United States, they have something called Penzic War in Pennsylvania. Cooper's Lake Campground, Society of Creative Anachronisms. If you want to see an actual test of these same sorts of ideas, these aren't battle-hardened Marines. These are just everyday weekend warriors. And it is a lot of fun. So we are at the commercial break. Kat says, I should see what the armor looks like. It is really neat. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. See if you can post something in the Discord under random stuff. And also, if you'd be so kind as to put the Discord in the chat. So anybody who is floating around in chat lurking could join it. Now is also a perfect opportunity for viewers to spend some channel points on the new addition to the channel points redemptions. And now is the time in the show when we bring you a word from our advertisers. And this week, our phrase is in honor of the New York case ending. Verurteilung wegen Einsverbrechens. Verurteilung wegen Einsverbrechens. And now we would like to thank our associate producer, Kat, for being Kat. By the way, what does that mean? It sounds like I just said something in German, and I'd like to know what I just said, because there are a lot of German sentences that I don't want to say. We would like to thank our ASOC Prod Kat for everything she does here, making this entire thing possible, and being our staff writer. Thank you very much, Kat, for all you do. We would also like to thank our UK correspondent. Who's that girl? It's Jess. And our Canadian correspondent from Canada, Robbie Nova, both of whom are streamers here on Twitch, or over there on Twitch if you are watching this on YouTube. We would especially like to thank our Discord manager, Marina Ion at Human Tech Art, who we are delighted to be working with over and over again. Thank you. Oh, that is neat. I could see how you would think that's not for prolonged wearing, but the way it's made, it actually looks perfect for that. It looks like it stacks itself nicely, comfortably, and puts weight on the areas that can support it. It looks like Juggernaut-style armor, early Juggernaut-style armor. Felony conviction. Verurteilung wegen Eisenverbrechens. Einsverbrechens. Verurteilung wegen Einsverbrechens. Felony conviction. It's the little things that make me happy. I want to stay quick on the camera switching because I've noticed that in camera 2, if I'm turned in the wrong way, you can see a patch of hair that I missed shaving. So I have this odd little patch on the, yeah. And once again, I would like to thank the Hidden Leaf for this week's pre-rolls, because I've decided, even though they haven't asked me to, and they don't pay me to, I've decided that each episode of stream, I will have a pre-roll from them. And each episode I will shout them out by name. Because I believe in what they're doing. Kat says all links to the story. Kat posted, of course, the Discord and says that all links to the stories used in this episode will be posted in the Discord at some point after the show. The Discord link is also in the doobly-doo. I doobly-doo believe. So come visit us on Discord. If you're watching this on YouTube, and join the fun. For instance, you can't be part of our General Chaos episodes if you're not in the Discord, because you can't get into the voice channel. But if you would like to be part of our General Chaos, or take part in our Sunday listening and reaction to Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR, you do need to join the Discord. So, thank you to the Hidden Leaf. And friends, we are just about to move along. Oh yeah. Oh. Whew, all right. Hello, friends. From the Midwest to our great northern neighbor to the North Canada, I'm Mitch Egan, and this is What's Up North, eh? First up are some Yelp reviews for the Cook County Department of Corrections. Which totals 2.9 stars on Yelp. The funniest review, quote, I was disappointed that there were no musical numbers. I thought there would be more dancing. I've seen the musical. False advertisement. Also, if you just start singing, "He Had It Coming," they can take that as a confession. From Stephanie H. Next up, from Minnesota Correctional Facility. 4 stars on Yelp. Top and only review. Great meals, met a lot of great guys in there. The staff can be rude sometimes, but I guess that's what we're supposed to expect. The rec area is nice, although your peers might get aggressive during the games you partake in. My one big complaint is the beds. I mean, I get I'm serving 20 to life, but at least let me sleep during that sentence. They definitely get 5 stars if it wasn't for that. Other than that, great place. I would recommend going there. Zachary J. Oakland County Jail, Michigan. Oh, hey, that's my name, eh? 3 stars on Yelp. Funniest review. They provided a very gentle arrest on me. However, the drive to this fine establishment, the police officers did have a bit of a snarky attitude, but nothing too bad. The meat sandwich is to die for, as in you'll probably die if you eat too much of it. The lodgings in this establishment are quite cozy and tropical compared to the rival Macomb County Jail. I must say I will try to have all my future arrests in Oakland County. Carlos A. Mimico Correctional Center, Etobicoke, Ontario, Canada. 3 stars on Yelp. We'll come back to that. Ooh. This is hard to do in the accent. Eh? It's really hard to stay in character when I'm trying not to laugh this much. I will say, oh God. I will say that these establishments don't sound that different from where I went on vacation. I mean to jail. Kat just said, "This is why I only gave you one specific tongue twister." No, Wasabi, you didn't. You did not miss another tongue twister. No, it's these. This is just too darn silly. Okay, we're back from ads. Let's see if I can keep a straight face. Straight face. See? Mimico Correctional Center, Etobicoke, Ontario, Canada. 3 stars on Yelp. Top and only review. They didn't give me free towels. The floors were all stained. My roommate stabbed me. He wasn't feeling it. Alex R. And Alex, I do understand that. He sounds like he just has had a really rough time of it in there. I know how stabby I can get when I'm just not feeling it, not getting free towels, and have stained floors in those establishments. Our sympathies go out to you, Alex R. And last of all, and moving a little closer to homey, nope, I'm not doing this one as him. I'm doing this one as me, y'all. Because this is my home jail. This is my vacation resort we're talking about here. Central Virginia Regional Jail, y'all. 5 stars on Yelp. I am just saying. The top and only review. What is a prison? Is it metal? Physical? Whatever it is a place to keep safe while it grows and changes. Julian L. And of course, very philosophical treatise on the idea of a prison. Thank you, Julian. Nah, but seriously, like, everybody in CVRJ is like that. I mean, everybody's trying to expand their mind up in there. It's creepy. It is really almost a little upsetting. And moving on to something probably quite a bit more serious. Our next segment, the war on education. From the70million.org. Mandatory air conditioning for Louisiana school buses hits dead end. To quote the article, the Louisiana House of Representatives voted 56-43 to kill Senate Bill 26, sponsored by Senator Cleo Fields, Democrat, Baton Rouge. That would have mandated climate-controlled measures on all buses serving public schools by 2032. House Republicans, mostly representing rural areas, said their school districts would not be able to afford such a requirement. This is less of a complaint against local administration and more against the fact that it is 2024 and heating and air conditioning is still not standard equipment on school buses, as opposed to mostly any personal vehicle you would purchase today. Louisiana state law requires the replacement of school buses when they reach 25 years of age, so one would think that as buses age out, it would be possible to make sure the new ones have air conditioning. Unfortunately, this doesn't look to be the case. The average cost of a school bus is $50,000 to $200,000. And adding air conditioning is adding an additional $10,000 to $15,000. Cash-strapped localities with aging fleets are left to replace as many as they can to prevent disruptions and lack of service. Next up from MSN.com, Louisiana to become first state requiring 10 commandments be posted in schools. Really, Louisiana? Really? You want to take over for Florida in #1 on my hit list of states? You really want to get this kind of attention? Because I won't be the only one. There are a lot of comedians that are just looking to make a name off of you. Well, this is your warning. Louisiana to become first state requiring 10 commandments to be posted in schools. The associate producer is too tired to rant on this one, but feels it should be noted. And so am I. It's all fun and games till somebody loses an eye, and then it's just fun without depth perception. Kat says, I wish to note that in a search of Minnesota prisons, the U.S. Post Office was second ranked and had only 1.9 stars. And yet, they don't ban postal workers from getting firearms. Man, can't imagine working for the post office. If it's that bad. I just had to take a moment and think about that. And now, moving on to the segment that you have all been waiting for. To the one that you wait for with bated breath every time, which is why we put it last. To the segment that makes us ask that perennial question. Why, Florida? Why? First up, from MSN.com. Florida is on its way to banning and criminalizing alternative meat. No, this isn't alternative meat as in the infamous veggie burger or the impossible burger as the headline and location would suggest. No, this is addressing the idea of lab-grown animal protein that can be harvested without loss of life. Quote, Governor Ron DeSantis wants to keep lab-grown meat out of Florida. Over the last several months, Florida legislators have been quietly working to ban and criminalize the production and sale of cell-cultivated meat across the state via introduction of two bills, HB 1071 and SB 1084. Florida State Representative Tyler Sirios, the Republican who introduced a similar bill, HB 1071, told Politico that his major motivation is protecting the cattle industry. Quote, farming and cattle are incredibly important industries to Florida. Sirio stated, adding, "So I think this is a very relevant discussion for our state to have." He did make sure to slip in that he considers cell-cultivated meat an affront to nature and creation. So really, sir, you're only interested in eating something if it has a soul. Ooh. I was about to make a joke about his wife, but that just seems cruel. Stop myself while I can. Next up from NBC2.com, potential relief for local businesses as Florida nears marijuana legalization vote. Florida-specific votes will be happening this fall while support for federal legalization grows. Well, Florida, I hope you can catch up with us up here. I know Uncle Randy'd like it. Next up from Florida Daily Post, DeSantis amid criticism signs Florida bill making climate change a lesser state priority. To quote the article, climate change will be a lesser priority in Florida and largely disappear from state statutes under legislation slimed Wednesday by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. That's right, he doesn't sign legislation, he slimes it. He slimes everything he touches. Man looks like he is just kind of slimy. Let's try that again, shall we? Climate change will be a lesser priority in Florida and largely disappear from state statutes under legislation signed Wednesday by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis that also bans power generating wind turbines offshore or near the state's lengthy coastline. It takes effect July 1st and would also boost expansion of natural gas, reduce regulation on gas pipelines in the state, and increase protections against bans on gas appliances such as stoves, according to a news release from the governor's office. End quote. The end of the article notes that the legislation would launch a study of small nuclear reactor technology, which is definitely something we want in Florida. Oh, yeah. Next up from Florida Daily Post, Boy Scouts of America changing name to more inclusive Scouting America after years of woes. Quote, to quote the article, the Boy Scouts of America announced after 114 years that it will change its name and will become Scouting America in an effort to emphasize inclusion as it works to move past the turmoil of bankruptcy and a flood of SA claims. The rebrand is another seismic shift for an organization steeped in tradition that did not allow gay youths or girls to begin joining its ranks until relatively recently. Seeking to boost flagging membership numbers, the Irving, Texas-based organization announced the name change Tuesday and its annual meeting in Florida. Quote, in the next 100 years, we want any youth in America to feel very, very welcome to come into our programs, says Roger Crone, who took over last fall as president and chief executive officer. told the Associated Press in an interview before the announcement. I'm not doing the Rainbow Scouts joke again. All y'all know the Rainbow Scouts joke by now, I'm sure. Next up from Sun Sentinel, groups challenge Florida death penalty game of chance. A change made last year to requirements for juries dealing with capital punishments has led groups to call such court cases a game of chance. Previous to last year, a sentence in favor of death penalty required a unanimous vote. Quote, the law allowed death sentences to be imposed based on the recommendations of 8 of 12 jurors, an easier threshold than a previous requirement of unanimous jury recommendations. The change, prompted by Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz receiving a life sentence after a jury did not unanimously recommend death, gave Florida the lowest death penalty jury standard in the nation. In a friendly to the court brief filed last week, in the Michael James Jackson case, a coalition of groups argued that the different death penalty standards have injected an unconstitutional haphazardness into the resentencing process in cases that were pending when the law changed. The groups, including the Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the Florida Public Defense Association, and the Florida Justice Institute, Floridians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty, and conservatives concerned about the death penalty, argued that the 8-4 requirements has been applied based on chance. Well, I suppose in a state where the death penalty still is possible, I'd rather have a chance of it not happening. But then again, I guess that's a gambler's view of the situation. Personally, I claim not to be a gambler, but being that I'm a farmer, I'm one of nature's biggest gamblers. So that brings us to the end of another show. Thank you, friends, for joining us. And I have been your host. I have been, and hopefully will be again in the future, your host, Trevor Stewart, 1308. Thank you again to Kat for being an extraordinary ASOC prod and writer. And, Kat says, why does it sound so fitting that a Texas-based group would host the annual meeting in Florida? That's a very good point, Kat. That is a very good question. In any case, thank you for joining us. Now is the time on the show when we say, as they say around here, 2 up, 2 down, VA, double deuces. We're out, y'all. Don't forget to stick around for the raid.